Not all ammo will be around when shelves go empty. Some calibers vanish overnight, others stay useful no matter what burns down around you, and a few, well, they're dead weight unless you're lucky or desperate. But what happens when your go-to round turns into trade bait or shelf decor? In this video, we'll talk about the 10 most relevant SHTF calibers, ranged from common to catastrophic, based on how practical they really are when the grid's down, trucks stop rolling, and nobody's coming to help. If you're building a serious ammo stash, not just for weekend range time, but for real long-term survival, then you'll want to see exactly where your calibers rank and what you might need to rethink. Number 10, 7.62 by 39 millimeter. I parked the 7.62 by 39 in the useful but risky slot because it brings solid terminal energy yet drags baggage that shows up whenever logistics tighten. Introduced in 1943 for the SKS and later the AK-47, its recipe still works. 123 grain full metal jacket bullets leave a 16-inch barrel at roughly 2,350 feet per second and deliver about 1,500 foot-pounds of energy. Enough to punch through intermediate barriers or bone even after losing velocity downrange. Hand-loading this cartridge in a grid-down era looks doable but never painless. Huge quantities are burden-primed steel, so scavenging reloadable cases takes time. I hoard boxer-primed brass and a stash of 310 diameter peels. Powder choice is forgiving, but case life is short and neck tension erodes quickly if you don't anneal. That puts work on your shoulders during hours better spent on perimeter checks. Availability fluctuates with geopolitics more than any other round on this list. During calm seasons, pallet loads sit on store floors, yet sanctions or shipping snarls wipe it out overnight. In a regional collapse, the smart move is raiding abandoned hunt camps and rural gun rooms. Plenty of SKS rifles ride ATV racks, and every box of ammo you scoop marries up with those guns. The round's performance favors woodland ambushes, roadblock defense out to 300 yards, and engine block disables at convoy choke points. I rank it 10th because the rifles are rugged. The ballistics respectable, but the supply chain hangs on international threads and the hand-loading curve pushes your patience. Number 9, 10mm auto. Jeff Cooper championed the 10mm, and it earns its moderate slot on this list for raw horsepower in a service-sized pistol, but asks a lot in return. It reached the FBI in the aftermath of the Miami 86, only to see agents complain about recoil. Ballistics tell the tale. A 180 grain JHP hustles past the chrono at 1,300 feet per second from a full-size pistol, posting more than 675 foot-pounds. Handloaders survive or fail by brass retrieval. Real 10mm runs high pressure, up to 37,500 psi, so cases stretch. I save Starline and Norma brass, resize with a carbide die, and seat hard-cast 200 flat-grain points over slow powder like Blue Dot. Cast bullets keep costs tolerable because factory loads hover near $1 a shot. Powder and large pistol primers remain common, but brass attrition means you scrounge range floors constantly or order deep before the trucks stop. In a crisis, the cartridge shines where toothy predators overlap with two-legged threats. Woods patrols, homestead barrel arms, and checkpoint deterrents all benefit from a round that cracks vertebrae through winter gear. It feeds in carbines like the High Point 1095 or a modified AR pistol, giving you rifle-level energy in long gun form with pistol logistics. I rank it 9th since its recoil makes training expensive. Magazines hold fewer rounds than a standard 9, and local shelves rarely carry defensive loads in bulk. Number 8, 45 ACP. John Browning's fighting cartridge rides nostalgia, yet belongs in the practical mid-pack. Designed in 1904 for the Colt 1905 and locked into history by the M1911, it lobs a 230 grain peel at 830 feet per second or around 355 foot-pounds from a government-length barrel. Energy looks modest on paper, but the .452-inch frontal diameter, subsonic speed, and straight-walled case make it a soft-shooting hammer that cycles reliably when tolerances stay within spec. Why rank it below hotter options? Capacity and trajectory cost points. A single-stack 1911 holds 8. Modern double-stacks stretch to 14, still short of a baseline 9mm. Drop past 50 yards and you need a mortar-level holdover. Yet the big bore scores in suppressed rolls and barrier defeat, and every rural pawn shop stocks boxes of 230 grain full metal jacket. Hand-loading feels almost recreational. Brass lasts for 10 cycles if you don't push pressures. I cast 200 grain semi-wad cutters from Will Weights. Size them 4.52, lube with Lee A-locks, and launch over 5 grains of bullseye for practice that costs pennies. In SHTF scenarios, you can scavenge lead from tire piles or fishing shops. Scrounge any fast pistol powder and prime with ubiquitous large pistol cups. No crimp groove needed. Taper, crimp, and go. Specific scenarios justify it. Quiet night pest control using an oil can suppressor, inside vehicle defense where overpenetration worries less than muzzle blast, or covert door breaching with a suppressed carbine that clocks under 115 decibels. Availability is steady across North America, and barter value climbs because plenty of veterans still keep a 1911 just in case. Number 7. 300 AAC Blackout. This cartridge bridges the divide between carbine and pistol calibers, earning a usable but risky tag because it solves niche problems while introducing unique headaches. The parent 223 case is chopped to 1.368 inches, necked up to 308, and loaded with bullets ranging from 110 grain supersonics at 2,350 feet per second to 220 grain subsonics around 1,000 feet per second. The energy mirrors 7.62 by 39 in supersonic guys and 45 ACP on the sub side, but magazine capacity stays 30 when you keep standard AR manual of arms. Hand loading becomes a sawdust party. Brass prep starts with trimming discarded 223 cases, chamfering, and full-length sizing. Once formed, they're good for several cycles, yet you must mark them clearly to avoid catastrophic mix-ups in 5.56 chambers. Powder flexibility is wide, especially pistol powders like Little Gun for subs. Those subloads demand meticulous charge weight because pressure spikes hide in tiny deviations. Lead times grow when casting heavy bullets because you need gas check shanks and special molds. In collapse scenarios, 300 BLK earns its bread in 2 lanes. First, suppressed perimeter rifles that launch 220 grain bullets below the sonic line for sentry removal or pest harvesting without alerting the valley. Second, short barrel truck guns that sling 110 grain copper expanding rounds that give you deer legal power in thick brush. However, you gamble on availability. Retail inventory dips whenever military or consumer demand spikes, and a few police departments stock it for barter. It's why it only made it to number 7 on this list. Brilliant at what it does, hazardous if you rely on open market resupply. Number 6. 357 Magnum. The revolver workhorse climbs into the reliable tier because of sheer versatility. Designed by Elmer Keith and Smith & Wesson in 1934, by stretching the 38 Special, it pushed law enforcement sidearms past the armor barrier of the Prohibition era. A 150 grain soft point leaves a 6-inch barrel at 1,250 feet per second with 550 foot-pounds, yet swap cylinders and the same wheel gun digest 38s for quiet practice. Carbines like the Rossi 92 boost that same load past 1,800 feet per second, flirting with 1,100 foot-pounds, plenty for medium game at 100 yards. Hand loading shines here. Straight-walled brass slurps through carbide dies without lube, and you can cast bullets from scrap lead. Powders from Unique to H110 cover mouse fart to bear stopper loads. Small pistol primers are everywhere, plus the brass lasts a dozen loadings. In a world without FedEx, you and your single-stage press keep the cylinder fed indefinitely. Supply remains broad because millions of lever actions, service revolvers, and concealed carry pieces rely on it. Walk into any outpost gun shop and you'll find at least one dusty box of 125 grain jacketed hollow points. The round's edge lies in its adaptability. A ranch pistol for snake duty, a truck rifle for coyotes, and a defensive carbine that shares ammo with your sidearm. I rank 357 6th because it covers so many jobs with one cartridge and empowers the off-grid hand loader, though capacity limits and slower reloads keep it from the podium. Number 5. 308 Winchester 7.62 by 51 NATO. The main battle rifle cartridge opens the strong practical segment. Winchester commercialized it in 1952. NATO adoption followed in 1954 to replace 30-06. It fires a 147 grain ball at 2,800 feet per second for 2,560 foot-pounds out of a 22-inch barrel. That translates to ethical elk harvest, truck-stopping penetration, and wind-defeating authority past 700 yards. Brass and projectiles flow like spring melt, especially if you're near military bases. Boxer primed once-fired Lake City cases line shipping containers, and bullets range from 125 grain varmint grenades to 180 grain bonded bear peels. Powder selection is massive. Varget IMR 4064 TAC. Even powder-coated cast bullets run subsonic through suppressors for nighttime hog patrol. Case life runs 5 or 6 loads before primer pockets loosen, so you stretch the stash. The round's SHTF niche stems comes from multi-role rifles. A PTR-91 on the ridge overwatches the valley. A bolt gun punches steel at 900 yards to keep raiders nervous. At roadblocks, you trust the cartridge to wallop engine blocks, defeating the 1-ton diesel that breezes through pistol fire. When meat matters, soft point 165s anchor deer cleanly. Availability remains high because the international market keeps factories cranking, yet weight taxes your back. 20 rounds weigh as much as 60.556. That logistical drag positions it at number 5. Essential for reach and punch, but something you'd stage rather than hump all day. Number 4. 12-gauge shotgun shells. Now the gauge that never left American closets. Born in the black powder 1800s, standardized by the dram equivalent system, and still the king of versatility. A single break action or pump fires birdshot, buckshot, slugs, rubber less lethals, and specialty breaching loads. Standard 2 3/4 inch double-aught buck pushes 9 .33 caliber pellets at 1,325 feet per second. A 1-ounce Foster slug from a smoothbore exits at 1,600 feet per second and carries 2,500 foot-pounds. Essentially a .73 caliber rifle hitting harder than a 30-06 under 100 yards. Hand loading exists with roll crimp tools and recycled holes. Alliant red dot and universal powders, fiber wads, melted will weight shot. You keep the homestead supplied even when plastic holes split by cutting down paperboard. Primers are the same 209s used in muzzleloader shot shell substitutes and old school fireworks, widening scavenging options. Slug mold lets you turn scrap lead into accurate 500 grain projectiles. In specific scenarios, the gauge is gold. At dusk, you drop a gobbler for dinner, swap to buck for prowlers after dark, then rack a breech slug to punch hinges if your neighbors cry for help behind barricaded doors. Urban defense in tight hallways favors pattern spread, while rural bear country respects a Bernanke. I ranked it 4th because the gauge adapts to every threat inside of 125 yards and hand loads well. Yet recoil, limited capacity, and slow reloads keep it from eclipsing the rifle rounds above it. Number 3. 22 long rifle. The Barter King steps onto the podium. Since 1887, this rimfire has trained recruits, fed families, and dispatched pests. A 40-grain round nose leaves an 18-inch barrel at 1,200 feet per second for 128 foot-pounds. Barely more kick than a stapler. Not impressive on charts, yet try trading anything else for a canned soup after 3 months of a crisis. A single brick buys favor because every cabin, barn, or bug-out bag hides a lightweight 22. Hand-loading rimfire remains borderline impossible, so stock what you can. Subsonics for trapping duty, high-velocity plated for predators, hyper-velocity hollow points for defensive fallback. Storage is simple. Vacuum-packed bricks with Desitin. Rimfire's Achilles heel rest in ignition reliability, so rotate through batches during practice. SHTF utility thrives in silence and volume. A threaded Ruger 1022 with a makeshift solvent trap suppressor pops raccoons without waking the next farm. A pocket NAA revolver rides ankle duty at barter fairs. During hard siege nights, you break rooftop glass with the first shot, then wait for the looter's head silhouette before sending 3 more. Even soft armor seldom rates against 22 to the eye socket. The round weighs so little that a 50 cal ammo can hold 5,000 cartridges under 38 pounds. I place it 3rd because its liquidity equals silver coins and its roll diversity covers protein harvesting, target currency, and last-ditch defense, limited only by terminal performance outside 75 yards. Number 2. 5.56 by 45. Second place belongs to the cartridge of Western Infantry. Eugene Stoner's scaled-down AR-10 arrived in 1957, and by 1963, the M16 chambered in .223, leading to NATO standardization in 1980 with the SS-109. A 55-grain M193 at 3,250 feet per second yields 1,290 foot-pounds. A 62-grain M855 at 3,020 feet per second gives 1,255 foot-pound and penetrates steel helmets at 600 yards. Wound mechanics depend on fragmentation above 2,600 feet per second, so barrel length and distance matter. Yet the cartridge's controllability allows rapid hits under fire. Hand loading feels like cloning hamburgers. Everyone has the recipe. Brass litters every public range. Small rifle primers fill hardware store shelves. Powders like H335, CFA 223, and TAC meter perfectly through throwers. Even steel core penetrators can be pulled for soft point hunting bullets when seasons change. Case life reaches 5 or 6 loads if you anneal. For defense, a 14.5-inch carbine with a red dot and 55-grain barrier blind loads covers you from 0 to 400 yards, punching through car doors, yet dumping energy inside soft targets. The cartridge weighs half of 7.62, so a patrol leader can carry 200 rounds without blowing knees. It rakes takes second because nothing else balances weight, recoil, accuracy, and availability so well, though it still depends on centerfire reloading supplies. Number 1. 9mm. And finally, the top slot goes to the world's favorite service pistol cartridge, a modern 124-grain 9mm NATO at 1,150 feet per second measures 364 foot-pounds. A plus P 147-grain Ranger load hits 1,000 feet per second for 326 foot-pounds, while penetrating 18 inches of gelatin and expanding to .68. These numbers look humble beside Magnum revolvers, yet shot placement wins fights, and 9mm delivers controllable double taps from subcompact to PCC platforms. Hand loading couldn't be simpler. Straight wall brass, carbide dies, small pistol primers, economical charges of tight group or power pistol. Cast-coated 125-grain truncated cones run for pennies. A Dillon 550 produces 400 rounds an hour, and components weigh little. Swap recoil springs and your Glock accepts mild mouse farts for small game gathering or plus P loads for barrier defense. Availability eclipses everything. Police agencies from Boise to Bangkok field Glocks and SIG P320s, each with rates of federal HST awaiting disposal if budgets freeze. Civilian shooters chew through billions of range day FMJ, leaving pickup brass knee-deep. Specific survival moments showcase its crown. In narrow hallways, you fire 147-grain subsonic suppressed and communicate between shots. On patrol, you slip a Kel-Tec Sub 2000 behind a plate carrier, sharing mags with your sidearm while doubling effective range. At barter tables, a single box covers antibiotics or generator filters because demand remains universal. Training cost stays low, so skills don't atrophy when powder rations grow thin. So there you have it, 10 SHTF calibers, ranked from moderately useful to absolutely essential. We covered raw power, reload potential, scavenging odds, and real-world use cases, from truck defense and barter to backyard meat runs and silent sentry removal. Which caliber do you trust most when the lights go out? What's your go-to hand load setup or ammo stash strategy? Drop it in the comments. We want to hear what you're planning for the long haul. Hit like, share this with your prepper crew, subscribe for more no-fluff survival gun content, and don't forget to smash that bell so you don't miss the next one.